Okay, this is our final project. We are presenting on Procter& and Gamble, and in our group we have Madeline Brown, Kai Watson, Roger Maxwell, Thomas Haynes, and Patricia Whistling. So this is the executive summary part, and some of our touch points include a situational analysis where we will go over some brands that are associated in different ways with Procter& and Gamble, innovation of Procter& and Gamble, diversity and inclusion, financial performance, and internal and external analysis. And then we'll also go over through a strategic assessment and recommendations. In that portion, we'll touch upon opportunities, strategies, and implementation. And then some of the other things we'll go over are benefits and risks of moving forward. Well, you may be asking yourself, why are these points important? Well, they are important to understand more about the company. We will have to understand more about the company so that we can use all of that information going forward in our presentation. And we will also need to know this stuff. This is important because we are going to dive into the company's core problems, issues, and opportunities and understand how to act upon these opportunities and avoid these issues that we find within Procter& and Gamble. We also need this information because we will be conducting a SWOT analysis in order to understand the company more fully. Without this information, our presentation would be incomplete.
All right, so the first part of our situation analysis that we are going to talk about is the internal analysis, including the Brin analysis. And before we touch on that, we just want to mention a little bit about the competition that Procter & Gamble faces. So some of Procter & Gamble's biggest competitors in certain spaces are Colgate-Palmolive, Bic, and Unilever. And each of these competitors compete with only a few of Procter & Gamble's brands and products. For example, Unilever and Colgate only compete with Procter & Gamble in the family care segment, and the family care segment accounts for about 27% of Procter & Gamble's sales. Bic is Procter & Gamble's biggest competitor in the grooming space, a big competitor to Gillette, and this grooming segment only accounts for about 10% of Procter & Gamble's sales. So one of the biggest strengths that Procter & Gamble has is its diverse set of brands. And they've been building these brands for decades in these different markets and segments. They sell products from clothing to household items, and Procter & Gamble has a place in many different segments, many different markets. And they often dominate the market share in those segments. So while there are some generic versions of some of Procter & Gamble's products, they have, through innovation, created extreme brand loyalty over the years, and really their competition has a hard time keeping up with all of their brands. Another huge strength of Procter & Gamble over the years has been innovation. One of Procter & Gamble's largest focuses in the past few years has been on innovation and research and development. And a large focus for Procter & Gamble currently is sustainability, which they see as an opportunity for more innovation. One of their main goals currently is to innovate new products that are more sustainable. The innovation strategy that they've been using is called Connect and Develop, and this has led them to really dominating that home products space over the past decade. Now, Procter & Gamble has also recently been recognized for their work with diversity and inclusion in their company. They've received multiple awards for diversity and inclusion, and some of the key areas within the company that they're focusing this on is in board participation, senior management, procurement, and their total overall workforce. And you can see here, this slide comes directly from their website that the world has taken notice of Procter & Gamble's work with diversity. So we can see that brands, innovation, research and development, and diversity and inclusion really passed the VRIN test used in the internal analysis. And through innovation and diversity, Procter & Gamble has been able to create extreme brand loyalty.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the financial performance of Procter & Gamble. As Roger mentioned, Procter & Gamble has a lot of different brands. Well, they have one brand, but they have a lot of different markets that they're in. And because of that, they have a huge financial advantage over their competition because they have such a bigger company compared to the competition. They have the ability to beat out competition because they can penetrate into new markets with this financial advantage that they have. And they also have the ability to innovate and to create new products that maybe other companies can't do. The future is looking bright for Procter & Gamble. If we look at their stock price over the last year or two, we can see that there's an upward trend in the market, and it looks like they're going to continue to grow financially. Right now, their stock price is 115, and it will probably go up. If you look, this chart's from the Yahoo Finance. If you look at the bottom of that, it says the analyst recommendation is to hold. That's probably because it looks like they're going to keep growing and they can make more money. So there's not any really good reason to sell or to do anything like that. They should just wait because the company's going to keep growing. It's probably also not the best time to buy stock because the price is kind of high and there's a chance it could go down a little bit. You just kind of have to watch it and gauge for what the best time would be for that. Compared to the competition, it's pretty hard to compare Procter & Gamble to their competition because they're a much bigger company and you would have to look individually in each of the different industries that they sell their products in because most of the competition have significantly less profits and their stock prices are a little bit lower. So right now, Procter & Gamble is basically leading the market with finance. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the VRIN and the resources that Procter & Gamble has that gives them this leading advantage over their competition. One of the biggest ones is their scale, which we've already talked about. They're very well known and they are global all over the world, and it's pretty easy for them to keep growing in that way. They have the ability to innovate products because they have more money and they can, since they're a bigger company, they can acquire other companies and just, it's easier for them to innovate, making them very valuable in the market. Branding kind of goes along with scale. They're very well known. They're leading the industry with their branding. Most people know who Procter & Gamble is in each of the industries. They have a lot of trademarks on all their products, making their products rare and harder to imitate, and also harder to make substitutes because they have the protection on their products. Financial stability, they're leading in that. I just talked about that, so I won't go into that. Technology, a lot of the industries are now moving to online trading and e-commerce, and this is a great opportunity for the company to grow because they can reach a much larger audience and make a lot more money, making them more valuable. Customer loyalty goes with branding. People have been buying their products for a long time, and they're probably likely to keep buying those products because they know them and they trust them. And there's a really good community around Procter & Gamble because the company really cares about their customers, and there's a huge emphasis on satisfying their customer needs. I'm not going to go too much into the pestle analysis because we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But the important thing that they're focusing on now, since they want to satisfy their customers' needs, they're going to go into sustainability and the environmental things, such as we've talked about before, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Moving on, so overall, Procter & Gamble uses a generic differentiation strategy and competes by offering high-value products at affordable prices. And since they have this huge advantage over competition, it's a pretty good strategy for them. They can meet the needs of their customers, which is their biggest priority. And next, we're going to move on to the strategic assessment and proposed recommendations.
All right, so going over the opportunity assessment, what we like to focus on is the biggest opportunity right now that Procter & Gamble has is they're working on their sustainability. They announced back in 2018 that they called this goal Ambition 2030, and the idea was that by 2030, all of their brands would have sustainable products, all of their suppliers would have sustainable resources or sustainable environmental friendly uses. Their goal in this is that they're trying to create a positive impact on the environment and society, and they're also trying to create value for them as a company and their consumers. By doing this, they're going to be able to decrease costs, increase sales, and have a lot of other success from that. All right, so looking at the strategies to improve this opportunity, we had a couple of things come to mind. The first one is environmental sustainability education through an ad campaign. The second one is to invest in recycling centers to increase the reach, while the third is a social media ambassador campaign to help promote the need for sustainable products. Now, why we chose these is in order to capitalize on this opportunity, the consumers need to understand the need for environmental friendly and sustainable products and services. And so by focusing on education, by focusing on creating more of a need through increasing the recycling centers, and by focusing on social media and ambassadors, we'll be able to create that need and increase our sales. So the first strategy, the one that we'd recommend starting with, is environmental sustainability education. By focusing our ad campaigns to increase awareness and sustainability, we'll have a benefit that will create a large demand for sustainable products while creating a lasting difference for the environment. And this ad campaign should be modeled after the Like a Girl campaign. something that will inspire consumers to be more environmentally sustainable.
All right, so in conclusion, some of the risks of not moving forward with these recommendations is a slightly diminished public image. As we mentioned before, Procter & Gamble is in a very competitive space, and with the changing cultural values, especially concerning the environment, and a lot of companies are becoming much more environmentally sustainable in producing those type of products. If Procter & Gamble chose to not proceed with that strategy, other competitors would somewhat outshine, and that would lead to a decrease in sales and also a loss of market share. Inversely, the benefits of moving forward will be increased sustainability awareness. So through the ad campaigns that we mentioned previously, not only will the company be shown in a positive light by showing that they have it as a top priority to be environmentally friendly, but they will also be a part of bettering the world and making sure that we leave a good carbon footprint or a smaller carbon footprint. And then inversely, an increase in demand and sales and also customer loyalty with the shifting cultural values. People are very loyal to companies that align with their values. So those that are very environmentally conscious will lean more towards buying Procter & Gamble products than other companies that are less environmentally conscious. Thank you.